Hi, so this is the federal budget in 2019. This is an infographic, and if you notice, it's from the Congressional Budget Office, which is part of the legislative branch that looks at the budget and then provides Congress with information about like what would happen if you increase spending or cut taxes or did some combination of the two. Um, and it reports these things, and Congress can either act on it or make any decision that they want. Actually, the CBO is also it's nonpartisan, meaning it's not like pro Republican or pro Democratic. It's just it looks at the data and it provides information to help lawmakers make decisions. So if you look in 2019, you can see that the United States brought in $3.5 trillion in revenue. And then we spent $4.4 trillion in revenue. Okay. Now, how spending is done with the federal budget is in three parts. We have what's called mandatory spending, and you can see that it's $2.7 trillion. Then there's discretionary spending, that's 1.3 trillion, and then there's net interest, which is $0.4 trillion. What they mean by these things is mandatory means legislation dictates that this thing has to be paid for. So like the military, Social Security, things like that. Discretionary spending is just like you learned in civics. It's money that you can choose to spend on various things, but you don't have to. And then net interest, this is the money that we pay on our debt. So remember how I've talked to you guys before, other governments can buy our treasury bonds. And when they do, we have to pay interest on those bonds. And that's what it is right there. Okay. Now, if you look at revenues, you can see where does the money come from. And what you can see is the biggest part of revenue is it's from individual income tax. You and I working. Okay. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit for you guys. There we go. So it tells you that receipts from taxes on individual income, including taxes on wages, dividends, and interest earned. Like if you have money in the bank and it's drawing interest, you have to pay taxes on that. Next is payroll taxes. These are taxes that fund social insurance programs, primarily Social Security and Medicare's hospital insurance program. And then we have corporate income taxes. It's 1.1% of gross domestic product. Remember, that's $19.4 trillion. So this is taxes on income that is made by corporations. And then we have other. So this is excise taxes, estate taxes, gift taxes, customs duties, remittances from the Federal Reserve, and miscellaneous fees and fines. Okay? So where does the money go? Well, the largest thing that we have to spend our money on for mandatory spending is Social Security. It's $1.01 trillion. Okay? This money goes to retired and disabled people. Then we have Medicare. So Medicare is specifically for people who are over the age of 65 years of age and older, like people who are living on Social Security. And it is also for people who are disabled. Okay. Then we have Medicaid. Medicaid is different than Medicare because Medicaid is for people who are at or below the poverty line, considered to be low income. Okay. So that's why we have to figure out where people sit at on the income scale. And then we have other. Now notice this is mandatory spending, so we have other. And so this is for unemployment compensation, federal civilian and military retirement, some veterans benefits, the earned income tax credit, the supplemental nutrition assistance program. It's called SNAP. It used to be called food stamps. It's to allow people to buy food. And then other mandatory programs minus income from offsetting receipts. Now, what are the discretionary spendings? Well, the biggest one that we have is in defense. We spend $676 billion on defense. So we spend the most amount of money per GDP. Well, I don't know if it's per GDP, but we spend the most amount of money of any nation on national defense. We patrol just about every body of water. So we're in the Mediterranean, the Atlantic, North and South, the Indian Ocean, the South Pacific, the North Pacific, the China Sea, Sea of Japan. We're all over the place with our Navy. And then our military bases we have them in South Korea, Japan, United Kingdom, Germany. I think there's one in Turkey. one in Chile. I mean, they're all over the place. Some of them are a lot bigger than others. Different places in Africa as well. So, there you go. Remember, there's the Army, there's the Navy, there's the Air Force, there's the Marine Corps, and then there is Space Force as well now. Now, non-defense, this is like transportation, education, veterans benefits, health, housing assistance, and any of the other activities. So think about all those cabinet positions that we talked about in civics, with the exception of the Department of Defense, essentially. This is their spending, okay? Now, interest, we pay $375 billion per year, and this is on towards debt. We pay interest on debt that's held by other people because we spend more money than we bring in, okay? What could we do? We could cut spending. It'd be difficult to cut mandatory spending because that's a legal thing, but there is discretionary spending, but that would be either in defense or non-defense. And, there's not a whole lot of stomach for that, to be honest with you. And you can't cut out net interest. That would be nice, but you can't because you've got to service your debt. You've got to pay for it, okay? If you look at the federal deficit, that means, or surpluses for that matter, for most of the time since the 70s, we have been in deficit, meaning we're spending more money than we were bringing in. And then starting in 1997, and until the year 2001, we were at surplus, okay? There was tax reform. And what's crazy about this, you guys, is this is during the time of like Bill Clinton, who was a Democrat. He's the president of the United States. And the Congress is controlled by Republicans. So they actually worked together. And this is the result, tax cuts, things like this. Then after 9/11, and then wars, and then this is the Great Recession, right? We're coming out of it, but here we go. We're back into it again. And part of the reason, this is pre-COVID, but part of the reason is just government spending has increased, but more importantly, taxes were cut and spending was not cut. Okay, kind of need to do that. This is what the federal debt looks like. Okay, it's going up pretty exponentially right here. Part of the reason why, again, is the Great Recession. Government did a lot of spending during that time. I mean, we're still in Afghanistan. We have lots of things that we've paid for, and continue to pay for. But this is how you get here. It's the Congressional Budget Office. I mean, there's all kinds of information here. When you guys are in college and you're looking for something to do a research paper on, I highly encourage you to do that. You can download the documents and the data is right there. All right. Thanks a lot.